Wendy, you bitch. How dare you withdraw all the investments the day before our wedding? Jason barged into my villa like a madman, his suit disheveled and eyes bloodshot. Holding a glass of red wine, I sat gracefully on the sofa, watching the wretched state of the man I once loved deeply. Jason, mind your language. I merely took back what belongs to me. Belongs to you? He trembled with rage. Wendy, we're getting married tomorrow, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. How could you withdraw the funds? I let out a light chuckle and stood up, setting down my wine glass. Then let me ask you, where were you last night? Jason's face instantly changed, his eyes beginning to evade. I was working overtime at the company. Is that so? I took out my phone and played a recording. Jason, tomorrow is your wedding with Wendy. Can we still be like this afterwards? Yuki, what nonsense are you talking? I'm only marrying Wendy for her family's money. You've always been the one I love. Once we get her family's fortune, we can run away together. But Wendy has been so good to you. Good how? She's just a spoiled rich girl who only knows how to spend money. Yuki, you're my true love. Just treat tomorrow's wedding as a show. Once I've swindled Wendy's family out of their money, I'll divorce her immediately and marry you. The recording ended, plunging the entire living room into dead silence. Jason's face turned as pale as paper, his mouth opening and closing as he struggled to find words. Jason, how did Wendy get this recording? A delicate voice came from the doorway as my cousin Yuki walked in, dressed in a pink dress, looking pitifully fragile. Her belly was slightly rounded, showing at least 4 months of pregnancy. Cousin, this recording is fake, right? Jason said you're the one he loves most, Yuki said, tears welling in her eyes, her face the picture of innocence. I watched the despicable pair's performance with cold eyes. Had it been an hour earlier, I might have been moved by their words, convinced I'd misunderstood them. But just now at the hotel entrance, I saw with my own eyes how Jason carefully helped Yuki into the car. That gentle demeanor was something I'd never seen before. I followed them to Yuki's apartment and eavesdropped outside the window, overhearing that conversation. Turns out they'd been having an affair behind my back for 3 years. The love I thought was real turned out to be nothing but an elaborately orchestrated scam. To him, I was just a golden goose, a foolish one at that. Yuki, had enough acting? I walked up to her. You know perfectly well whose child you're carrying. Yuki instinctively protected her belly, her face turning panicked. Cousin, what are you talking about? I don't have a baby. No baby? I pulled out an inspection report from my bag. This is the prenatal checkup report the private investigator got from the hospital this afternoon. Yuki, 16 weeks pregnant, father of the child, Jason. Yuki's face instantly turned ashen, her whole body swaying unsteadily. Jason quickly steadied her, glaring at me furiously. Wendy, you've gone too far. Yuki is pregnant, you can't upset her like this. Watching him shield another woman and hurl insults at me, my heart was completely shattered. Jason, you're truly devoted. Pity your devotion is misplaced. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at them from above. Do you remember how we met 3 years ago? Jason was taken aback. You said your company was in trouble and urgently needed funds. Without hesitation, I gave you $200 million in startup capital. Later you said you wanted to expand the business, so I gave you another $300 million. Last year when you mentioned entering overseas markets, I gave you $500 million more. Over these 3 years, I've given you a total of $1 billion, transforming you from a small business owner into a rising star in the business world. Jason's face grew increasingly grim. Now you're telling me this was all just a scheme to cheat me out of my money? Wendy, it's not like that. Jason tried to explain. Shut up. I snapped coldly. I haven't finished speaking. I picked up a stack of documents from the table. These are the papers I just signed. Starting today, Sovereign Oak Group is withdrawing all investments from your company, including the $1 billion principal and 3 years' worth of dividends. Additionally, according to our signed investment agreement, if you violate the loyalty clause, you must also pay a penalty of $500 million. That means, Jason, you now owe me $1.5 billion. Jason froze when he heard that number. Impossible. Wendy, have you lost your mind? $1.5 billion. Where would I get that kind of money? No money? I scoffed. Then use your company to pay the debt. I've already had my legal team draft the lawsuit. It'll be filed first thing tomorrow morning. Wendy. You can't do this. Jason grabbed at my hand in desperation, but I shook him off. Why can't I? Jason, who do you take me for? Some fool who gets played and still pays you for the privilege? Yuki suddenly dropped to her knees. Cousin, please spare Jason. It's all my fault, I seduced him. If you want revenge, take it out on me, but don't hurt an innocent person. As she spoke, she began slapping her own stomach, threatening to harm herself. I'll just die, will that finally satisfy you? Seeing her actions, Jason rushed to hold her back in panic. Yuki, don't. The baby is innocent. Then he turned to glare at me, his eyes filled with hatred. Do you see this, Wendy? Yuki is willing to die for me. That's what real love looks like. Not like you, who only knows how to control people with money. I couldn't help but burst into laughter at his words. True love? Jason, do you even know what true love is? True love is me knowing full well you just want my money, yet still being willing to give you every penny I have. True love is me knowing you're lying to me, yet still choosing to believe every word you say. True love is me knowing you've been sleeping with my cousin, yet still wanting to give you both a chance to explain. But Jason, you've shattered all my hopes completely. I walked to the door and took one last look back at them. Tomorrow's wedding is cancelled. A legal notice will be delivered soon. Also, Yuki, you've been disowned by the Langley family. Don't call me cousin anymore. Wendy, stop right there. Jason tried to chase after me but was held back by the bodyguards. Without turning back, I walked out of the villa and got into the Rolls-Royce that was already waiting at the entrance. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Where are we heading now? I closed my eyes and leaned back in my seat. Back to the company. It's time to show them what a real business war looks like. At 3 a.m., the headquarters building of Sovereign Oak Group remained brightly lit. I sat in the chairman's office on the top floor, with over a dozen documents spread before me. Boss, here's the detailed asset valuation report for Jason's company. Assistant Linda placed the documents down. Based on current market value, his company is worth approximately $800 million. $800 million? I sneered. Still $700 million short. Also, here's the equity structure chart of his company. Jason holds 60% of the shares, while the remaining 40% is distributed among several minor shareholders. I picked up the equity structure chart and examined it carefully. Linda, first thing tomorrow morning, contact these minor shareholders. Tell them I want to acquire their shares at 20% above market price. Boss, are you trying to take control of his company? No. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. I want to destroy it. When I control 40% of the shares, combined with the court's mandatory enforcement, I'll become the company's largest shareholder. At that point, I'll dissolve the company, liquidate all assets, and leave Jason with nothing. Linda looked concerned. Boss, isn't that too extreme? After all, Jason and you. Linda, I turned around, my gaze icy. Starting today, never mention the name Jason in front of me again. To me, he's already a dead man. Yes, boss. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Cousin, it's me, Yuki. Yuki's sobbing voice came through the phone. I told you already, stop calling me cousin. I said coldly. Wendy, please just hear me out. None of this was Jason's fault, I was the one who seduced him. What are you trying to say? I know I was wrong. I'm willing to walk away, I'll leave with the baby and never appear before you again. But please don't destroy Jason's company. It's his life's work. Listening to Yuki sobbing over the phone, I felt not a ripple of emotion in my heart. Yuki, do you really think it's you I care about? What I care about is that he deceived me for 3 years, treating me like his personal ATM. What I care about is him swearing his love to my face, then turning around to sleep with other women. You think just because you're stepping back, this matter is settled? How naive. But Jason truly loves you, he just made a momentary mistake. That's enough. I cut her off. Yuki, this is my final warning, don't call me again. Otherwise, I won't just ruin Jason, you won't escape unscathed either. With that, I hung up the phone. Linda looked at me with concern. Boss, would you like to take a break? You haven't slept for a full day and night. No need. Arrange my schedule for tomorrow morning, I'll personally meet with those minor shareholders. And contact the media. Tell them Wendy, the heiress of Sovereign Oak Group, cancelled her wedding and withdrew a $1 billion investment after discovering her fiancé's infidelity. Boss, won't this damage your reputation? Reputation? I sneered. Linda, you must remember, in business, only winners get to talk about reputation. At dawn, my phone rang again. This time it was a call from my father, James. Wendy, what are you playing at? The media is saying you're breaking up with Jason? Dad, Jason cheated on me. I stated the matter plainly. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. That bastard. Dad roared in anger. I always said that guy was no good. I never approved of you two dating in the first place. Dad, there's no point talking about that now. I want to go all out against Jason's company. Will you support me? Of course I'll support you. That ungrateful wretch needs to learn exactly what our family is capable of. But Wendy, you need to be mindful and not let things get out of hand. I know, Dad. After hanging up, I packed my things and got ready to head out. As soon as I reached the elevator, I saw Jason standing there. He clearly hadn't slept all night, his eyes were red and swollen, his beard unkempt, completely lacking his usual elite demeanor. Wendy, can we talk? He asked, stepping toward me as soon as he saw me. There's nothing to discuss. I pressed the elevator button expressionlessly. Wendy, I know I was wrong. I can break up with Yuki, I can make her abort the baby. Please forgive me just this once, okay? The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside while Jason tried to follow, only to be blocked by my bodyguards. Jason, do I look like someone who would settle for second-hand goods? And making a woman abort your child, you're truly scum. The elevator doors slowly closed as I watched Jason frantically pounding on them from outside. But it was too late. The one thing I despise most in this world is betrayal. Since you chose to betray me, you'll have to face the consequences. On the 10th floor, the elevator doors opened. Linda was waiting by the elevator entrance. Boss, the first shareholder has agreed to sell their stake. Good, continue. There's something else you should know. Jason's company was served with debt collection notices from the bank this morning. They can't even pay their employees' salaries anymore. I gave a cold smile. This was just the beginning. At 10 in the morning, I sat in the conference room of Sovereign Oak Group, facing 3 middle-aged men in impeccable suits. They were minor shareholders of Jason's company, holding 10%, 15%, and 15% of the shares respectively. Wendy, we're all reasonable people here, so let's skip the pleasantries, one of the shareholders began. Your offer is indeed tempting, but we'd like to know your real purpose for acquiring these shares. I raised my water glass and took a sip. Everyone, do you think Jason's company still has a future? The 3 shareholders exchanged glances but remained silent. I believe you understand better than I do. Jason's company's rapid growth over these past 3 years was entirely dependent on funding from my Sovereign Oak Group. Now that I've withdrawn my capital, his cash flow will inevitably collapse. Banks will demand repayment, suppliers will halt shipments, employees will jump ship, and clients will break contracts. Do you still think such a company is worth investing in? The minority shareholder was silent for a moment. You're right, but we're also friends with Jason. Doing this? Friends? I scoffed. Everyone, I was Jason's fiancé, and he still betrayed me. The business world is like a battlefield, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Now I'm giving you two choices. First, sell me your shares at 20% above market price and walk away with your money. Second, sink with Jason. Another shareholder finally spoke up. Wendy, can you give us some time to consider? Of course. I stood up. I'll give you 1 hour. After that, my offer will be withdrawn. By then, you'll have no choice but to wait for Jason's company to go bankrupt and liquidate. After saying this, I turned and left the conference room. Linda followed behind me. Boss, they'll agree. I know, I said calmly. No one would turn down money. Sure enough, within half an hour, the 3 shareholders agreed to my terms. By noon, I had acquired 40% of Jason's company shares at 20% above the market price. Now, Jason and I each hold 40% of the shares, with the remaining 20% belonging to a few small investors. But the key point is, the court is about to enforce my creditors' rights, and Jason's shares will be auctioned off. In other words, I will soon become the controlling owner of this company. Just back in the office, Linda rushed in frantically. Boss, something terrible has happened. What is it? Jason jumped off the building downstairs at the company. The water cup in my hand nearly fell to the floor. What? Is he dead? No, the safety airbag caught her. She's currently being resuscitated at the hospital. I remained silent for several seconds before replying, understood. Boss, should we go to the hospital to check on her? No need. I said coldly, someone who doesn't even dare to die properly, what else can you expect from them? But boss, there are many reporters outside right now, all claiming you pressured Jason to his death. I furrowed my brows. This was indeed troublesome. If Jason had actually died, I would surely face public condemnation. But since he's alive, this is just a performance. Linda, contact PR immediately and have them draft a statement. Also, find some former employees from Jason's company and have them expose how he squandered my investments over the past 3 years. Yes, boss. At 3 p.m., while I was handling documents in the office, Yuki suddenly burst in. The bodyguards tried to stop her, but I waved them off. Cousin, are you satisfied now? Jason's life is hanging by a thread, are you happy? Yuki's eyes were red and swollen, clearly from prolonged crying. Yuki, first of all, I've told you not to call me cousin anymore. Secondly, Jason's life or death has nothing to do with me. How is it irrelevant? You pushed him to this. You withdrew your investment, you bought out his shares, you left him with nothing. I left him with nothing? I sneered. Yuki, get this straight, he was the one who betrayed me first. I gave him $1 billion, turning him from a small-time company owner into a rising star in the business world. I loved him for 3 years, treating him as the most important person in my life. And him? He approached me for money, deceived me for money, got engaged to me for money. Now that I'm taking back what's mine, suddenly it's my fault? Yuki was left speechless by my retort. After a while, she finally said, but Jason truly loves you. He just had a momentary lapse in judgment. Enough, I cut her off. Yuki, do you know why Jason jumped off that building? It's not because he lost the company, not because he lost the money, but because he realized he'd lost his usefulness. He thought jumping off a building could win sympathy, could soften my heart, could make me forgive him again. But he was wrong. I stood up and walked over to Yuki. What I hate most in this life is betrayal and deception. Since you chose to betray me, you'll have to face the consequences. And Yuki, don't play innocent. Do you think I don't know how you've been conspiring to deceive me for these past 3 years? Yuki's face instantly turned deathly pale. What are you talking about? I pulled an investigation report from the drawer. This is what I had a private detective look into. 3 years ago, it was you who proactively contacted Jason and told him about my identity and financial situation. It was you who gave him the idea to stage those chance encounters, to fake company troubles. Even the timing and manner of his proposal to me were all orchestrated by you. Yuki collapsed onto the chair upon hearing this. What do you take me for? A fool you can deceive and exploit at will? Cousin, Don't call me cousin. I snapped. From today onward, you're my enemy. I won't just destroy Jason, you won't get off easy either. Yuki looked at me fearfully. What are you going to do? Didn't you get pregnant? I'll make sure the whole world knows how you destroyed someone else's relationship and became a homewrecker carrying someone else's child. I'll make sure you can't survive in this city. I'll make you regret ever being born. Hearing my words, Yuki trembled in terror. Cousin, please spare me. I know I was wrong. It's too late. I pressed the intercom. Security, escort her out. Soon, 2 bodyguards entered the office and dragged Yuki away. Watching her retreating figure, I felt not an ounce of pity. If they chose to play with fire, they should be prepared to get burned. At 8 in the evening, just as I was about to leave work, Linda rushed into the office. Boss, the hospital just called. Jason has regained consciousness. Conscious? I set down my bag. How is he now? The doctor said it's just some external injuries, not life-threatening. But what? He asked to see you, saying he has something important to discuss. I sneered, something important? Only now does he remember he has something important to discuss? Boss, are you going? I thought for a moment. Yes, I want to see what tricks he's still got up his sleeve. Half an hour later, I arrived at the hospital. Jason lay in the VIP ward, his head wrapped in bandages, looking extremely frail. Yuki sat by the bed tending to him. When she saw me enter, she immediately stood up as if to speak. Get out. I stared at her coldly. Cousin. I said, get out. Yuki glanced at Jason, then silently left the hospital room. Only Jason and I remained in the space. Wendy, you're here. Jason struggled to sit up. Stop pretending. I sat on the chair farthest from him. Go ahead, what's so important? Jason was silent for a moment before speaking. Wendy, I know I was wrong, I know I hurt you. But I want to tell you a secret. What secret? Actually, I never loved Yuki. I froze for a moment. What did you say? I said, I never loved Yuki. Even being with her had its reasons. Jason struggled to sit up, his gaze unusually serious. 3 years ago, Yuki came to me first, saying she'd help me win you over. She said she understands your personality and knows what kind of man you'd like. She helped plan all our chance encounters and taught me how to win you over. But in return, she demanded that I maintain a relationship with her. As I listened to him, a surge of anger rose in my chest. So you're telling me you were coerced by Yuki? Not coerced, it was more like a transaction. Jason lowered his head. She helped me get you, and I gave her the lifestyle she wanted. Pathetic. I let out a cold laugh. Jason, do you really think I'd believe such nonsense? It's true. Wendy, think about it, if I really loved Yuki, why would I choose you? Are you prettier than her? Are you kinder than her? I chose you because you're rich, but I slowly fell in love with you too. It's just that Yuki threatened me. If I didn't stay with her, she would expose the truth to you. I listened quietly to his explanation, but my anger only grew. So what you're saying is that both of you are the victims, and I'm the fool? No, Wendy, I'm trying to tell you, the real mastermind behind this is Yuki. She's jealous that you've always been better than her since childhood, jealous of your wealth and status, so she wants to destroy you. Being with me was just the first step. Her ultimate goal is to replace your position in the Langley family. Jason grew increasingly agitated as he spoke. Wendy, you need to be careful of Yuki. She's far more dangerous than you realize. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, darkness had completely fallen, and the city's neon lights flickered, as complex as the human heart. Jason, even if everything you said is true, so what? So what? Wendy, we can start over. Since we're both victims, why can't we forgive each other? Forgive? I turned around, my gaze icy. Jason, you still don't understand. What I hate isn't that you fell for someone else, but that you've been lying to me from the very beginning. What I hate isn't that you chose Yuki, but that you treated me like an ATM. Even if Yuki was the mastermind behind it all, what about you? Didn't you have the right to choose? For 3 years, every time I gave you money, you accepted it without a second thought. Every time I expressed my love for you, you responded with hollow words. Every time we were intimate, were you thinking of me or Yuki? Jason was rendered speechless by my words. Wendy, Enough. I cut him off. Jason, regardless of whose idea it was, you chose to deceive me. That's all I need to know. I picked up my bag and prepared to leave. Wendy, wait. Jason suddenly called out to me, I have one more secret to tell you. What other secrets do you have? Jason hesitated for a moment, then said, the child in Yuki's belly isn't mine. I froze. What did you say? The child isn't mine. A flicker of pain passed through Jason's eyes. Although Yuki and I had a relationship, we were always careful, pregnancy shouldn't have been possible. Then whose child is it? I don't know, but I suspect it might be your family's driver, George. George? I was stunned. How could that be? I've seen them together, looking very intimate. And Yuki often finds excuses to come to your house, it's actually just to see George. My mind was in turmoil. George is our family driver, in his 40s, married with children. If Yuki really does have something going on with him, this situation just got far more complicated. Do you have proof? Nothing concrete, but you could investigate. Jason looked at me. Wendy, Yuki is more cunning than we imagined. She's playing a much bigger game here. I remained silent for a long time before finally speaking. Even if everything you said is true, it doesn't change the fact that you betrayed me. Jason, it's over between us. The court enforcement notice will be issued soon, and I'll be taking over your company. As for Yuki, I'll deal with her. With those words, I left the hospital room without looking back. Sitting in my car outside the hospital, my mind was in complete turmoil. If what Jason said was true, what exactly was Yuki's goal? If the child really isn't Jason's, then why would she do this? And George, what role is he playing in all this? I took out my phone and dialed the private investigator's number. Charles, I need you to investigate someone for me. Yuki, and my family's driver, George. I want to know the details of their relationship, the more detailed, the better. I want results within 3 days. Hanging up the call, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. This game was more complicated than I'd imagined. But no matter how complicated it gets, I will uncover the truth. Because what I hate most is being treated like a fool. The next morning, I received an unexpected phone call as soon as I arrived at the office. Wendy? I'm a nurse from the hospital. Mr. Jason asked me to relay a message to you. What message? He said Yuki had a miscarriage last night. The baby is gone. My grip on the phone tightened. When did it happen? Around 11 p.m. last night. There was heavy bleeding. It took 3 hours of emergency treatment before she was out of danger. Hanging up the phone, I fell into deep thought. The timing was too coincidental. Just yesterday Jason told me the child might not be his, and today Yuki miscarried. Was this an accident, or intentional? Linda entered the office. Boss, Charles is here. He says he has an important discovery. Let him in. Charles is the private investigator I hired, a man in his 40s with extensive experience. Wendy, I worked through the night investigating the 2 people you asked about and have indeed made significant discoveries. He placed a file folder on the table. First, regarding the relationship between Yuki and your family's driver George. After investigation, they are indeed having an inappropriate affair, which has been going on for over a year now. I opened the file folder to find numerous photographs inside. The pictures showed Yuki and George checking into hotels together, kissing in cars, and embracing in parks. Additionally, I found their call logs and transfer records. Over the past year, Yuki transferred a total of $500,000 to George. Looking at this evidence, I felt a mix of complex emotions. Is there more? Yes, Charles pulled out another report. I investigated Yuki's bank account and discovered something unusual. Her account frequently receives large deposits from unknown sources. Over the past 3 years, the total deposits amount to $3 million. $3 million? I frowned. Where did she get that much money? That's exactly the key point I wanted to mention. Charles said with a serious expression, after tracking it down, I found all the money came from the same account. Which account? Jason Corporation's financial account. I understood instantly. You mean Jason has been giving money to Yuki all along? Exactly. And substantial amounts. Which means everything Jason said yesterday was a lie, I said coldly. They've been working together all along. That's likely the case. Charles nodded. And I've uncovered an even more crucial clue. Yuki's miscarriage was probably intentional. I stared at him in shock. What do you mean? I tracked her movements last night and discovered she visited a private clinic before the miscarriage. That clinic specializes in certain unorthodox procedures. I understood. Yuki had deliberately terminated the pregnancy. To destroy evidence, and to gain sympathy. Wendy, I believe there's a larger scheme behind this, Charles said. I advise you to proceed with caution. I nodded, understood. Keep investigating and don't overlook any details. After Charles left, I sat in the office collecting my thoughts. The situation was clear now. Jason and Yuki had been in cahoots from the very beginning, conspiring to deceive me together. Yuki's motives went beyond just sabotaging my relationship, she had bigger plans. And the pregnancy was most likely part of their carefully laid trap. Just then, my phone rang. It was Yuki calling. Cousin. I lost the baby. Yuki's weak sobs came through the receiver. I know. I said coldly. Cousin, I know you hate me, but the baby is innocent. Yuki, enough with the act. I cut her off, I know everything. The line suddenly went silent. Know what? I know about your relationship with George, about the $3 million Jason gave you, and I know you intentionally had the abortion. Yuki was silent for a long time before suddenly laughing. Since you already know everything, there's no point in pretending anymore. Her voice had completely changed, no longer weak, but filled with venom. Wendy, do you really think you're so clever? You think uncovering all this can change anything? Let me tell you, this is only the beginning. What do you want? I asked calmly. I want all your status within the Langley family, Yuki said without hesitation. I want to become the true heir of the Langley family. Ridiculous, I sneered. With what qualifications? With a secret that you will never know. What secret? A secret about your origins. Yuki's voice was full of triumph. Wendy, do you want to know your true background? My heart suddenly began to race. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not talking nonsense. Do you really think James is your father? Do you really believe you're of the Langley bloodline? Yuki, you're insane. I'm not insane, I'm perfectly lucid. Yuki laughed maniacally. Wendy, do you know why you've never resembled James since childhood? Do you know why James has been so good to you? Because he's not your father at all. I felt the whole world spinning. What proof do you have? Of course I have proof. The DNA test report, the hospital birth records, and witnesses from back then. All this evidence is now in my hands. Wendy, if this evidence goes public, do you really think you can still inherit the Langley family fortune? I tried hard to steady myself. What do you want? It's simple. Hand over control of Sovereign Oak Group to me, then get out of the Langley family. In return, I'll keep your origins a secret forever. Otherwise, I'll make sure the whole world knows that the so-called Langley heiress is actually a bastard child. I clenched my fists. Give me time to think. Fine, I'll give you 3 days, Yuki said smugly. I want your answer in 3 days. Wendy, don't even think about silencing anyone. I've already hidden the evidence in a secure location. If anything happens to me, this evidence will be automatically released. After hanging up the phone, I collapsed into my chair. Yuki's words struck me like a bolt of lightning. If I'm truly not James' daughter, then what is the meaning of my life? If I really have no inheritance rights, then what do I have left? But soon, I regained my composure. Regardless of my origins, I am still me. What I rely on isn't bloodline, but capability. Moreover, Yuki thought she had me cornered, but she didn't know I also had leverage against her. I picked up the phone and dialed a number. Charles, I need you to do something for me. I want you to investigate my origins, the more details, the better. Additionally, conduct a full investigation into all of Yuki's activities over the past 3 years. I need to find her weak spot. Wendy, this might take some time. I'll give you a week. Money is no issue. Hanging up the phone, I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. This game was far more complicated than I had imagined. But no matter how complex, I had to win. Because I'm Wendy, and I never accept defeat. 3 nights later, I arrived at an upscale cafe as Yuki had requested. She was already there waiting for me, looking much better. It was clear the miscarriage hadn't affected her too severely. Cousin, you're here, Yuki said with a smile as she stood up. But soon I won't be able to call you that anymore. I sat across from her, expressionless. Go on, state your terms. It's simple. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., you'll announce your resignation as chairman at the Sovereign Oak Group board meeting and recommend me as your successor. Say you're relocating abroad and need someone to manage things in your absence. Then transfer all your shares to me. I'll offer you a fair price. Yuki spoke as casually as if discussing the weather. Do you think the board will agree? I asked coldly. They'll have to, Yuki said smugly. Because they won't want Sovereign Oak Group's reputation tarnished. Once your true background is exposed, Sovereign Oak Group's stock will plummet, and everyone will suffer losses. To cut their losses, they'll choose to support me. I nodded. You've thought this through very thoroughly. Of course, I've been preparing for 3 years. Yuki picked up her coffee. Wendy, I've always admired you, to be honest. Ever since we were kids, you've been better than me, prettier, smarter. Everyone adored you, while I could only live in your shadow. But now it's different. I can finally turn the tables. So you orchestrated all this? That's right. Yuki didn't hide it. I started planning this 3 years ago. First, send Jason to get close to you, make you fall in love with him, then slowly drain your money. Meanwhile, I secretly gathered evidence about your background to prepare for today. The most brilliant part was using George as a pawn. Your family raised him for over a decade, and he knew the Langley family's secrets inside out. Through him, I learned many things even you didn't know. As I listened to her words, my heart grew colder. Including my true origins? Of course, that was the most important secret of all, Yuki replied, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Wendy, do you want to know your true identity? You are the daughter of James and his first love. That woman was named Snow, James's college classmate. They were in love, but your grandfather tore them apart due to their mismatched status. After Snow became pregnant, James had already married the current Margaret. To protect his reputation, he sent Snow abroad to give birth to you. Snow died in childbirth, and James brought you back, claiming you were his and Margaret's child. So, you are indeed James's daughter, but not Margaret's. I listened to these words with mixed emotions. So that's why, no wonder I always felt my mother was cold toward me since childhood. So that's why, no wonder Dad always favored me. Do you have proof? Of course. Yuki took out a document folder from her bag, DNA test reports, hospital records, and Snow's diary. Most importantly, the lawyer who helped James handle this matter back then is still alive, and he's willing to testify. I took the document folder and quickly skimmed through it. Indeed, the evidence was quite substantial. Wendy, do you understand now? Yuki said triumphantly. Though you're James' daughter, you're illegitimate. According to the Langley family rules, illegitimate children have no inheritance rights. Whereas I'm the daughter of James' younger brother, a legitimate descendant of the Langley bloodline. If this evidence goes public, who the rest of the Langley family will support goes without saying. I remained silent for a long moment before raising my head to look at her. Yuki, do you think you've already won? Isn't that obvious? Yuki smiled triumphantly. What other cards do you have up your sleeve? I smiled as well, pulling out a voice recorder from my bag. I've got a little present for you too. I pressed play, and Yuki's conversation with Jason came pouring out of the recorder. Yuki, this plan is too risky. What if Wendy finds out? No way, she's so naive, she'd never suspect that we're in on this together. But if her background is exposed, we'll be implicated too. Don't worry, I have a backup plan. Even if things go south, I know how to get out of it. What backup plan? I have offshore accounts with $50 million already transferred. Even if the Langley family disowns me, I can still live comfortably. The recording ended, leaving Yuki's face ashen. When did you record this? Last night, at the hospital, I said coldly. Did you really think whispering in a hospital room would go unheard? How naive. Yuki panicked. This doesn't prove anything. Is that so? I pulled out another document. How about this? These are all the transfer records between you and Jason over the past 3 years, uncovered by Charles. Plus all the evidence of your joint deception against me. Yuki, what do you think would happen if this evidence were handed over to the police? Yuki completely lost her composure. What do you want? What do I want? I stood up, looking down at her. I want you to know what true despair feels like. You wanted the Langley family fortune, didn't you? I'll grant your wish. Starting tomorrow, I'll publicly reveal my true identity and voluntarily renounce my inheritance rights. But at the same time, I'll expose everything you and Jason have done. Let the whole world see what kind of person you really are. Yuki completely broke down upon hearing my words. No. Please don't, if this gets out, I'm finished. Now you're scared? I sneered. Didn't think about the consequences when you were scheming against me? Wendy, please spare me, after all, we are family. Family? I cut her off. Yuki, have you forgotten? You told me to get out of the Langley family. In that case, we are no longer family. I turned to leave. Wait. Yuki suddenly called out to me, I can destroy all the evidence, I can disappear forever, please don't ruin me. I turned back and glanced at her. It's too late. Yuki, you should know my character. What I hate most is betrayal. Since you chose to betray me, you must face the consequences. Tomorrow morning, the whole truth will come to light. You and Jason will both pay for your actions. With that, I walked out of the cafe without looking back. The moment I stepped outside, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Yes, I may no longer be the heir of the Langley family. Yes, I may lose everything. But at last, I can finally be my true self. I no longer need to carry the expectations of the Langley family, no longer need to compromise myself to uphold the family's reputation. I can rely on my own abilities and start anew. And those who deceived and betrayed me will eventually pay the price for their actions. At 10 o'clock the next morning, the boardroom of Sovereign Oak Group was filled with people. In addition to over a dozen board members, there were also lawyers, accountants, and media reporters. I sat in the chairman's seat, observing the crowd below. "Everyone, I've called you here today to announce something important." I stood up and picked up the microphone. "First, I want to publicly reveal a secret about my origins." The room instantly fell silent as everyone stared at me with tense anticipation. Through investigation, I discovered I am not Margaret's biological daughter. My birth mother is Snow, my father James's first love. In other words, I am James's illegitimate child. As these words were spoken, the room erupted in chaos. Reporters frantically clicked their shutters while board members whispered among themselves. "Silence." I tapped the microphone. "I haven't finished. According to the Langley family rules, illegitimate children indeed have no inheritance rights. Therefore, I've decided to voluntarily resign from my position as chairwoman of Sovereign Oak Group." "What?" The crowd below stirred once again. Several senior directors sitting in the front row hurriedly stood up. "Wendy, you can't do this. Indeed, regardless of your background, you are the best leader Sovereign Oak Group has ever had. We don't agree with your resignation." I waved my hand to quiet everyone. "I appreciate your kindness, but my decision is final. However, before I leave, I need to expose an even greater conspiracy." I pressed the remote, and photos of Yuki and Jason appeared on the large screen. For the past 3 years, someone has been secretly scheming to seize control of Sovereign Oak Group. They exploited my emotions to swindle me out of a billion-dollar investment. They collected evidence about my origins to blackmail me. They even bribed my family's driver to steal confidential information from the Langley family. As I spoke, various pieces of evidence kept appearing on the screen: bank transfer records, call recordings, photos, videos. All the evidence pointed to the same conclusion: Yuki and Jason had conspired to deceive me. The crowd below gasped in shock as they saw the evidence. How horrifying! How could such things happen? These two are absolute monsters. Just then, the door burst open. Yuki rushed in frantically, followed by several bodyguards. "Wendy, you can't do this," she shouted, "you're destroying all of us." "Yuki, perfect timing," I said coldly, staring at her. "Let's discuss your plans in front of everyone." I don't have any plans." Yuki's voice trembled. "No plans?" I sneered. "Then how do you explain this evidence?" More evidence appeared on the large screen, including transfer records between Yuki and overseas accounts. "What is this?" a board member asked, pointing at the screen. "This is the $50 million Yuki has transferred overseas over the past 3 years, I explained. "All this money came from investments Jason swindled from me. In other words, they didn't just steal my money, they moved it offshore." Hearing this, Yuki collapsed onto the floor. "No. It's not like that, let me explain." "What more needs explaining?" I stepped closer to her. "Yuki, the evidence is irrefutable. Do you still want to deny it?" At that moment, the conference room door was pushed open again. Several police officers walked in. "Yuki, Jason, you are suspected of contract fraud. Please come with us." Seeing the police, Yuki completely broke down. "Don't arrest me. I don't want to go to jail." She suddenly stood up, attempting to flee, but was stopped by bodyguards. "Wendy, please save me. After all, we're family." "Family?" I looked at her coldly. "Yuki, have you forgotten what you said yesterday? You said you wanted me out of the Langley family, and now I've granted your wish. But in return, you'll have to pay the price for your actions." The police stepped forward and handcuffed Yuki. "Yuki, according to our investigation, you're suspected of fraud involving up to $10 million, which constitutes a major criminal offense. Additionally, Jason has been arrested by us and has confessed to all the crimes." Upon hearing this, the last glimmer of hope in Yuki's eyes vanished completely. "Wendy, I hate you. I won't let you get away with this," she screamed hysterically. "Whatever. I said indifferently, but in prison, you probably won't have much chance to take revenge on me. After the police took Yuki away, the conference room remained silent for a long time. In the end, it was Dad who broke the silence. Wendy, no matter your background, you are my daughter. Sovereign Oak Group will always be your home. I looked at Dad, feeling a surge of warmth in my heart. Dad, thank you. But my decision is final. Sovereign Oak Group needs a leader without controversy. I suggest Uncle Henry take the position of chairman. His capability and reputation make him fully qualified. Henry is Dad's cousin and a veteran director of the company. This? Uncle hesitated. Wendy, I believe you're actually the most suitable candidate. No. I shook my head. Uncle, I'd feel completely at ease with you leading the company. Besides, I'm not planning to completely sever ties with Sovereign Oak Group. I'll retain a portion of shares and continue monitoring the company's development as a shareholder. As for myself, I intend to establish a new investment firm. Hearing my words, the directors below the stage nodded in understanding. Wendy, if you need any help, just say the word. That's right, Sovereign Oak Group will always support you. We believe you can create new glories. Looking at these familiar faces, my heart was filled with gratitude. Thank you, everyone. After the meeting, I returned to my office. Linda came over, tears welling in her eyes. Boss, I can't bear to see you leave. Linda, who said I was leaving? I said with a smile, I'm just changing roles. When the new company is established, would you be willing to come with me? Of course I would. Linda exclaimed excitedly, wherever you go, I'll follow. I patted her shoulder, then walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside was the bustling city, with streams of cars and crowds of people coming and going. 3 years ago, I was blinded by love and nearly lost everything. But now, I've finally seen the truth and found myself again. Although I lost $1 billion, although I lost control of Sovereign Oak Group, I gained something far more precious. I gained the truth, I gained freedom, I gained a chance to start anew. Most importantly, I learned who is truly trustworthy and who should be kept at arm's length. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Charles, help me look into which promising startups need investment these days. And find me some reliable business partners. I'm starting over. A month later, my new company Westminster Ventures was officially established. The company is located in a premium office building in the financial district. Though modest in size, it's exquisitely furnished with an elegant environment. Linda became my executive director, and I also poached Charles to serve as the risk control director. Additionally, I recruited several experienced investment managers and financial experts. Though the team is compact, every member is a crack professional. Boss, 3 project teams are coming today to discuss funding. Linda handed me a document. They're all startups you previously identified as promising. I flipped through the files. Excellent, let them come in one by one. The first project was a tech company specializing in artificial intelligence, founded by a young returnee PhD. Wendy, our product primarily targets risk control needs in the financial industry. The young man was full of passion and explained everything in great detail. I listened attentively, occasionally asking some questions. This project truly had promising prospects, and the team's background was solid. Very well, I've decided to invest in you, I finally said. An initial investment of $5 million for a 15% stake. Upon hearing my words, the young man nearly jumped with excitement. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for your trust. The second project was a new energy company founded by a middle-aged engineer. His technical skills were solid, and the product had market competitiveness. I decided to invest $3 million. The third project was an e-commerce company. After reviewing their business proposal, I shook my head. Sorry, I won't be investing in this project for now. Why? The founder was somewhat puzzled. Our numbers look great. The numbers do look impressive, but there's suspicion of manipulation, I pointed out bluntly. What's worse, your team lacks integrity, That's what I find most unacceptable. The founder's face turned ugly upon hearing my words, but he couldn't refute them. After seeing off the last project team, I sat in my office sorting through the day's gains. 2 investment projects, totaling $8 million, are expected to yield substantial returns if successful. At that moment, Linda walked in with an unusual expression. "Boss, I have some bad news." "What news?" "Jason committed suicide in prison." My pen paused in midair. "When did it happen?" "Last night." "Hung herself with a bedsheet." "They found her too late to save her." I remained silent for a long time. Though I hated Jason, hearing news of his death left me with complicated emotions. "What about Yuki?" "She's still in prison, but they say her mental state is extremely unstable. They might transfer her to a psychiatric hospital for treatment." I nodded and said nothing more. Though their ending was tragic, they had brought it upon themselves. Just then, my phone rang. It was Dad calling. "Wendy, have you heard about Jason?" "I have." Do you feel anything about it?" I thought for a moment. "Dad, I don't feel anything special. To me, Jason has been dead for a long time. His actual death just brings this matter to a complete end." Dad was silent for a while. "Wendy, isn't that too cold-blooded of you?" "Dad, do you think I should be grieving?" I retorted, "Grieving for someone who deceived and betrayed me?" "You have a point." Dad sighed, "Let bygones be bygones. By the way, Wendy, how's your new company doing?" "Very well, we already have 2 investment projects lined up." "Do you need Dad's help?" "Not for now, I want to prove some things through my own capabilities." "Good, I support you." Dad paused, "But Wendy, you should also take care of your health, don't overwork yourself." "I know, Dad." After hanging up the phone, I continued with my work. At 4 in the afternoon, Charles knocked and entered. "Boss, I've made an important discovery." "What discovery?" "Regarding those projects you previously invested in, I've uncovered some interesting leads." Charles placed a report on the desk. Although Jason's company went bankrupt, several of its subsidiary projects still hold value. Particularly one of their software products. Despite the company's collapse, the product itself boasts exceptionally high technical sophistication. I recommend considering acquiring the intellectual property rights for this product. As I reviewed the report, it was clear, this software product indeed had great potential. "What's the asking price?" "Given it's a bankruptcy liquidation, the price is very low, we could likely secure it for around $2 million USD. Moreover, if we repackage and relaunch this product, its market value could easily exceed $20 million USD. I thought for a moment. "All right, go ahead and negotiate. Try to secure it at the lowest possible price." "Yes, boss." After Charles left, I stood up and walked to the window. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the entire city. Just 1 month ago, I was still suffering from Jason's betrayal. Now, 30 days later, I picked myself up and emerged stronger than ever before. Although I lost $10 billion, I gained invaluable experience. Now I know how to spot fraudsters, protect myself, and establish my footing in the business world. What's more important is that I've come to understand what truly matters. It's not money, nor status, but sincerity and trust. I took out my phone and sent messages to a few old friends. "Let's have dinner tonight. I want to thank everyone for your support during this time." Soon, replies came pouring in. "Of course we'll come. Let's celebrate your new beginning. We've always supported you. It's about time we got together properly." Reading these warm responses filled me with gratitude. During my toughest times, it was these friends who stood by me and supported me. They are the real treasures in my life. At 7 in the evening, I was having dinner with some old friends at a high-end restaurant. Everyone was chatting and laughing, with a very relaxed atmosphere. "Wendy, you look much more confident than before," said my college classmate Alice. "That's right, even after going through so much, you've become stronger," another friend chimed in. Thank you, everyone, I raised my wine glass. I couldn't have emerged from the shadows so quickly without your support. This is what we should do, Alice said. True friends support each other in difficult times. You're right, I nodded. That's why I've decided the first investment project for the new company will be Alice's design studio. Alice had always wanted to open her own independent design studio but lacked the startup funds. Really? Alice said excitedly. Wendy, thank you. You're welcome, this is a win-win investment. I said with a smile, I believe in your abilities. After the dinner gathering, I drove home. On the way, I received a call from an unknown number. Wendy? This is Stephen from Cotswold Capital Holdings. Cotswold Capital Holdings is a well-known investment firm domestically. Hello Stephen, what can I do for you? Here's the thing, we heard you've established a new investment company and wanted to discuss potential cooperation. We have several high-quality projects that we'd like to jointly invest in. This is good news, indicating that my new company has started gaining recognition in the industry. Of course, when would be a convenient time to meet and discuss? How about tomorrow afternoon? Great, let's meet at my office at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Hanging up the phone, I felt elated. The new company's progress was even smoother than I had anticipated. After returning home, I took a hot shower and sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. The city lights shimmered in the night, as bright as my current mood. 3 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I realize it wasn't the end, but a new beginning. What's losing $1 billion compared to that? I have the skills, the experience, and the support of friends. I believe I can earn it back soon and even more. Most importantly, I now understand what true happiness really means. It's not about how much money you have, but about being your authentic self. Not about how much love you receive, but about learning to love yourself. I, Wendy, have finally figured out how to truly live. 3 months later, Westminster Ventures has become a rising star in the investment industry. Among the 5 projects we invested in, 3 have already started generating profits, with that artificial intelligence company in particular securing a new round of funding and tripling its valuation. That morning, I was reviewing financial statements in my office when Linda rushed in. Boss, there's important news. What news? Sovereign Oak Group is in trouble. I raised my head, what's the matter? Henry is suspected of embezzling public funds and has been formally investigated by the Procuratorate. The company's stock price has plummeted, and the board is in complete chaos. I frowned. Uncle had always been cautious, how could he make such a basic mistake? What are the specifics? Rumors say someone reported him for exploiting his position to embezzle $30 million from company funds for personal investments. The evidence is solid, and he's already been detained. This is indeed a major trouble. With Henry arrested and the Sovereign Oak Group left leaderless, it's likely to face an even greater crisis. Does my father know about this? Your father has already rushed back to the company to handle the situation, but things don't look optimistic. The board is considering temporarily taking over the company, but several major shareholders can't agree. I stood up and paced back and forth in the office. Sovereign Oak Group was the foundation of the Langley family, it couldn't afford to collapse. Even though I'd left, blood was still thicker than water. Linda, make arrangements, I need to go back to Sovereign Oak Group. Understood, boss. An hour later, I arrived at the Sovereign Oak Group building. A crowd of reporters had gathered downstairs, camera flashes popping incessantly. Wearing sunglasses, I entered through the side door. The elevator took me straight to the top floor, where I stepped into the familiar chairman's office. Dad sat behind the desk, looking thoroughly exhausted. Dad, I called softly. He looked up, and a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes when he saw me. Wendy, what brings you here? I heard something happened at the company, so I came to check. I sat across from him. What exactly is the situation? Father sighed. It's bad. Henry did indeed embezzle company funds, the evidence is irrefutable. The stock price has already dropped 30%, and several major clients are considering terminating their contracts. The board is in complete disarray, with everyone pointing fingers. I listened, a suspicion forming in my mind. Dad, do you think there's something fishy about this? What do you mean? Uncle has been handling finances for so many years and has always been extremely cautious. How could he suddenly make such a mistake? And the timing is so coincidental, this happens right at the company's most critical moment. Father pondered for a moment. Are you suggesting someone framed him on purpose? Very likely. I nodded. Dad, let me look into this matter. But you're no longer part of the company now. Dad, even though I've left Sovereign Oak Group, I'm still a Langley. What concerns the Langleys concerns me. Father looked at me, his eyes brimming with emotion. All right, then I'll leave it to you. I left Sovereign Oak Group and went straight to Charles. Charles, I need you to look into something for me. What is it? My uncle's embezzlement case. I suspect someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Charles frowned. You're saying someone deliberately framed your uncle? Yes, and I suspect this person's goal isn't just to frame Uncle, but to gain control over the entire Sovereign Oak Group. Do you have any leads? I pondered for a moment. Judging by the timing of Uncle being reported, the whistleblower must have intimate knowledge of Sovereign Oak Group's internal affairs. And this person likely holds a certain position within the company. I understand. I'll conduct a thorough investigation. 2 days later, Charles brought the investigation results. Boss, I found some interesting leads. What leads? First, the anonymous letter reporting Henry was sent from an internet cafe. I retrieved the surveillance footage from that cafe and spotted a familiar figure. Charles took out a photo. The picture showed a middle-aged man whom I recognized. This is Martin, Henry's younger brother. That's right, it's him. Charles nodded. And I've also discovered that Martin has been in close contact with several foreign-funded companies recently. One of them is an investment firm called Thamesworth Group, which has been looking for opportunities to acquire Sovereign Oak Group. I understood. Martin wanted to frame his elder brother, then seize the opportunity to collaborate with foreign investors and take control of Sovereign Oak Group. Any other evidence? Yes. Charles produced another document. I've checked Martin's bank account. There was a recent deposit of $5 million. The source of the funds was that Thamesworth Group. Additionally, I discovered that the $30 million Henry embezzled was actually tampered with. The real perpetrator was a supervisor in the finance department, who happens to be Martin's trusted aide. The evidence is clear. This was a meticulously planned conspiracy. Charles, thank you for your hard work. I stood up. Compile this evidence properly. We're going to see my father. Half an hour later, Charles and I arrived at my father's office. Seeing the evidence, Father's face turned ashen. That bastard Martin. How could he do something like this? Dad, now is not the time to be angry, I said calmly. We need to find a way to save Uncle while exposing Martin's scheme. But Henry has already been arrested with solid evidence. How can we prove he was framed? It's simple, we just need to make the real culprit confess. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Is this Kevin from the finance department? This is Wendy. Wendy? The voice on the other end of the phone trembled. I want to meet with you to discuss Henry's matter. I don't know what you're talking about. Kevin, I have evidence that you and Martin conspired to frame Henry. You now have two choices, either admit your mistake voluntarily, and I may consider leniency, or wait for the police to come arrest you. The other end of the line remained silent for a long time. Wendy, give me an hour to think about it, okay? 30 minutes, I said coldly. If you don't turn yourself in within half an hour, I'll hand the evidence over to the police. After hanging up the phone, Dad looked at me with concern. Wendy, do you think he'll confess? He will, I said confidently. Because he knows you can't wrap fire in paper. It's better to turn himself in now than wait to be caught. This way, he might get a lighter sentence. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Kevin arrived at Dad's office. He knelt on the floor, tearfully admitting his crime. Chairman, I've wronged you. I've wronged Henry. It was all Martin's doing. He promised me $10 million if I framed Henry. I lost my moral compass and agreed to it. With Kevin's testimony and the evidence Charles had gathered, Henry's innocence was quickly proven. The police immediately released Henry while launching an investigation into Martin. That very night, Martin was arrested. The news quickly spread, with media outlets reporting extensively on the power struggle within Sovereign Oak Group. However, with the truth coming to light, Sovereign Oak Group's stock price not only stopped declining but actually began to recover. Investors regained confidence in the company. A week later, my uncle was reinstated as chairman. At the board meeting welcoming his return, he publicly thanked me in front of everyone. If Wendy hadn't uncovered the truth in time, I might have been truly finished. Although Wendy has left the company, she will always be a hero of Sovereign Oak Group. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience. After the meeting, my uncle pulled me aside. Wendy, I really can't thank you enough this time. Uncle, it's the least I could do. Regardless, you've done me a tremendous favor. My uncle paused and thought, here's what I'll do, I'll personally invest $10 million in your company. Consider it my token of appreciation. I thought for a moment and didn't refuse. All right, thank you then, Uncle. This $10 million investment has significantly strengthened Westminster Ventures' financial capabilities. We're now considering investing in some larger-scale projects. Back in the office, Linda gave me a piece of great news. Boss, that artificial intelligence company is going public. Is that true? I was very excited. Yes, their IPO application has been approved, and they're expected to go public next month. Based on the current valuation, our return on investment will be at least tenfold. This means my initial investment of $5 million is now worth $50 million. Combined with the profits from several other projects, my net worth has fully recovered. More importantly, I now have my own team, my own company, and my own career. I no longer depend on anyone, I am the master of my own destiny. That night, I sat alone in my office, gazing at the city lights outside. A year ago, I had been devastated by Jason's betrayal. A year later, I had completely emerged from the shadows and became stronger than before. Over this year, I learned many things. Learned to recognize people, learned to guard against risks, and learned to establish myself in the business world. More importantly, I learned to love myself. I took out my phone and sent myself a message, Wendy, you're amazing. 6 months later, Westminster Ventures had become a renowned investment firm in the industry. The funds we manage exceed $1 billion, with investments spanning across various industries. After that artificial intelligence company went public successfully, we gained $50 million in profit. Several other projects have also performed well, with the company's overall return rate far exceeding the industry average. That day, I was in my office preparing a speech for an industry summit. As a representative of emerging investors, I was invited to share insights on entrepreneurship and investment. Linda knocked on the door and entered. Boss, there's a guest asking to see you. Who is it? It's a lady who claims to be your friend. Her name is Yvonne. I thought for a moment, let her in. The door opened, and a familiar figure walked in. It was Yvonne, my college classmate and Jason's ex-girlfriend. Wendy, long time no see. Yvonne smiled as she approached. Yvonne, what brings you here? I was a bit surprised. Yvonne had gone abroad after breaking up with Jason, and we hadn't been in touch all these years. I just returned home and heard about your situation, so I came specifically to see you. Yvonne sat across from me, studying me carefully. You look great, more confident than before. Thank you. I nodded. How have you been abroad these years? Not bad. Worked overseas for several years, and just came back to develop my career here. Yvonne paused for a moment. Wendy, I've heard about Jason. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said calmly. That's all in the past now. Yeah, it's in the past, Yvonne sighed. Actually, I've been meaning to tell you for a while, Jason wasn't a good person. What do you mean? We broke up back then precisely because I discovered he was having an ambiguous relationship with another woman. What's more, he's particularly snobbish, always trying to cozy up to wealthy people. It's a shame I didn't have the chance to warn you at the time. Listening to her words, I felt no great turmoil in my heart. None of this mattered anymore. Yvonne, now that you're back in the country, what are your plans? I want to start my own business, go into investments. Yvonne's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. I heard you're doing very well now, could you give me some advice? Of course, I nodded. In this industry, the most important things are vision and judgment. Also, you need to learn how to read people. People matter more than projects. We talked for over an hour. Yvonne clearly had great ideas, plus international work experience. Yvonne, if you're serious about investing, I can introduce some opportunities to you. Really? Yvonne was thrilled. That's wonderful. But I have a suggestion, you might consider joining an established investment firm first to gain some local experience. Or, I paused to consider, you could think about joining my company. Yvonne's eyes lit up upon hearing this. You mean you want me to join Westminster Ventures? Exactly. We happen to need a partner with international experience. If you're willing, we can discuss the details further. A week later, Yvonne officially joined Westminster Ventures as the Director of International Operations. Her arrival brought new vitality to the company, and we began focusing on some international projects. That afternoon, we were discussing a cross-border e-commerce project in the conference room. This project has an innovative model, and the founding team has extensive international trade experience, Yvonne introduced. What about the market potential? I asked. Excellent, especially in overseas markets, the growth potential is enormous. How much funding do they need? 50 million USD. We could consider investing 10 million for a 20% stake. I reviewed the project materials, it was genuinely compelling. Alright, we're investing in this project. Just then, Linda walked into the meeting room. Boss, there's an emergency. What's going on? Sovereign Oak Group is in trouble. My heart tightened, what's wrong now? Margaret is seriously ill and hospitalized. Your father wants you to go there immediately. I immediately dropped what I was doing and rushed to the hospital. Dad stood outside the ICU ward, his face grim. Dad, what happened? Your mother had a sudden heart attack and is still being resuscitated. My feelings were complicated. Although Margaret wasn't my biological mother and had always been rather distant toward me, she had after all raised me for over 20 years. What did the doctor say? The situation is critical. They told us to prepare ourselves. I stayed with Dad waiting at the hospital all night. The next morning, the doctor finally came out. The patient is out of danger but will require long-term treatment. She must avoid emotional stress and get plenty of rest in the future. Hearing this, Father let out a long sigh of relief. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Entering the hospital room, I saw Margaret lying in bed, her face pale but her consciousness clear. When she saw me, a complicated emotion flickered through her eyes. Wendy, you've come. Mom, how are you feeling? I'm all right, Margaret said weakly. Wendy, there's something I need to tell you. Go ahead. All these years, I haven't been good enough to you, and that's my fault. Even though you're not my biological child, you've always been a good girl. I want to apologize for my attitude in the past. Hearing these words, my eyes welled up with tears. Mom, don't say that. You're my mother too. Margaret nodded. Wendy, I hope you can forgive me, and I hope you'll come home. The group needs you, and so does our family. I held her hand. Mom, I've always been a member of the Langley family, that won't change. As for company matters, I'll give it some thought. A month later, Mom was discharged from the hospital, her health mostly recovered. And I had made an important decision. I've decided to have Westminster Ventures and Sovereign Oak Group collaborate to establish a joint investment fund. This will not only help Sovereign Oak Group expand its business but also provide Westminster Ventures with greater development opportunities. At the cooperation agreement signing ceremony, Dad declared before everyone, although Wendy has left Sovereign Oak Group, she will always be my most outstanding daughter. Today's collaboration isn't just between two companies, it represents the unity of the Langley family. The audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. After the ceremony, I stood atop the Sovereign Oak Group building, overlooking the entire city. 2 years ago, I was still a foolish woman blinded by love. 2 years later, I'd become an entrepreneur who can hold my own. These past 2 years, I've experienced betrayal, pain, and setbacks, but I've also gained growth, wisdom, and success. I lost $1 billion, but I gained something far more precious. I learned independence, resilience, and how to love myself. The most important thing is that I've come to understand a truth: true success isn't measured by how much wealth you possess, but by becoming a better version of yourself. True happiness doesn't come from being loved by others, but from having the capacity to love others. True strength isn't the absence of weaknesses, but the ability to rise from them. I took out my phone, snapped a photo of the city at sunset, and posted, "Grateful for all the encounters and partings, they've made me who I am today." The road ahead is still long, but I'm ready. Soon, friends were flooding in with likes and comments. "Go Wendy, you're the best. I'm so proud of you. Looking forward to your next triumph." Reading these blessings fills my heart with warmth. Yes, I've stood back up again. And this time, I'm standing taller and steadier than before. The future holds infinite possibilities, and I believe I can create even greater miracles. Because I know true strength comes from within, not from external circumstances. As long as one's inner self is strong enough, no difficulty can ever knock me down. This is my story, a tale of betrayal and rebirth, of loss and gain, of despair and hope. I hope that everyone who reads this story finds strength in it, never gives up in the face of adversity, and believes they can create a bright future. Because the most beautiful thing in life is not what you possess, but what you experience and the lessons you learn from those experiences. And I have learned life's most important lesson: love yourself, believe in yourself, and become who you truly are.